There we go. Okay, guys. Welcome to, I forgot to write down. It was the 8th session, but whatever. Here it says 8th session, online assessment and feedback. Giving feedback to your students is so important, so paramount. And it's important to understand the basic differences between online and in the classroom. Feedback is important because with your feedback, you can push or take back your students in their progress. So it's important. So we're going to explore some key aspects of assessment in online learning. We'll talk about some free tools for evaluation and some advice to give effective virtual feedback. There will be 3 cases that we would talk about, and you will give feedback on those cases. So, going deeper, what should we consider when assessing online? You know there is formative evaluation and summative evaluation, and of course there is formative assessment, summative assessment. Now, what happens with the formative assessment is for learning. You are not evaluating your students. You are just trying to see whether they were able to catch what you were trying to explain during the class, whether they are ready or not for an upcoming evaluation. That's the purpose of the formative assessment. It occurs during learning, and it's the typical exercises you have them do in their in their in their notebooks, for example. But let me send a message because my kitty wants to go inside my closet and she's crying and I'm busy. Yeah, I just sent my aunt the message. Okay. Low stakes. When I say stakes, it's like risk, low risk. Why is it low risk? Because when you assess your student in formative way, there's no problem, there's no risk with them. Wait, the kitty is here. Wait. Ven. Ven acá. Ven. You know her. Say hello to the kitty. She's going crazy. Look at the camera. Yeah. Oh my God, it's too heavy. Ah, okay. She's going crazy. Okay. So low stakes. Why is it low stakes? Because since you're assessing your students for the preparation, like before a real evaluation, there is no risk. The student does an exercise or whatever. If he or she makes a mistake, there's no problem. You're not going to take points from them. There's no problem. That's why it's low stakes. And can adjust, instruction. It also works for the students to understand what they are supposed to be doing. Okay. Whereas the summative assessment, in this case, is assessment of learning. This is an evaluation, and you will give or take some points. Okay. It occurs after learning. Of course, you explain whatever you're explaining and you send them the evaluation. High stakes, because if they don't do it correctly, I'm so sorry, but you flunk the test. And you cannot adjust instruction. Once you send them the evaluation, that's instruction. If you didn't learn during the formative assessment part, so sad. Now, Important things when you're assessing your students, in this case, online context. The alignment with learning objectives. Is your evaluation aligned with what you want your students to learn or not? That is important. And I have seen countless cases of students having problems with teachers who are trying to conduct an evaluation, but the evaluation doesn't have anything to do with the objectives or the subject that you're taking. And you have some examples of those. Hello, Veggie. Let me write you down on the list. I know you have had cases of teachers evaluating you about things they didn't teach in the class. It's a big problem. It happened to me when I was working long time ago with, for example, when I worked with some of you with English grammar, one of the first subjects I taught you guys. I remember the learning objectives I had in the program. I knew that you hadn't taken those subjects in the previous semester. So how was I supposed to align my evaluation, my assessment with the learning objectives for the program, from the program? Sorry, it was impossible. I had to adjust that. So the authenticity of tasks. Yes, Yaxeli, don't worry, you're on the list. The authenticity of tasks, guys, and we will see that in a minute. Everything doesn't have to be a written test. I know most of you like to do different things with your students. Hello, Nita. And I also know that some of you work for private high schools and they are in love with written exams. I have no idea why. There are countless of research that have proven that a written test is not the most effective method to evaluate, to assess your student knowledge. It's not the best one, not the best one. There are different other ways to evaluate them. Accessibility and inclusivity. Understand that our students, they have different ways to learn. We have visual students, and I will give you an example today. We have visual students. We have students who learn by moving, by doing the actions. You have students that they learn when they read something, students that learn only when they listen, students that learn when they do the activity during the class, different ways. So you need to understand, you need to find like the most appropriate evaluation method when you are assessing students online. Normally, online classes, we have not a lot of students. I mean, in a single class. For example, I work for this academy that allows me to use the Zoom, and we have individual classes and we have group classes. My biggest group is 4 people in the same class, a husband and a wife, and then another 2 women who live in different parts of the world. That's my biggest group, 4 people. And I know how to evaluate them, although they learn differently. Hello, Maria Guedes. Let me write you down. Maria Guedes. There you are. So you need to understand how to design the correct assessment form. Frequency and timing. How frequently or how often are you evaluating your students? For example, I'm working with 2 subjects with you guys this semester. You saw that we had like the second evaluation, we had it like the week before, which was the class that you sent it, the gamified class. Then we have the one you're sending me today, which is the creation of prompts for the AI subject. And I mean, I tried that the assessment do not coincide, but it was really difficult, especially with this short and accidented semester that we normally have in Venezuela. But this is also important. How frequently are you evaluating? And the student engagement. That's why I said we, we need to get rid of the idea of written exams. Sometimes it's necessary, but especially in an online context, why are you doing a written exam? Online context, there's no need. No need. Yes, I did, Jackson, don't worry. So, talking about authentic assessment, authentic materials, why use authentic assessments? Well, they are the best way to determine life achievement. Essays and class tests, like I mentioned, do not relate to the real world. If you ever have the chance, I recommend you to read about Finland's educational system and look for information about Sir Ken Robinson. Sir Ken Robinson, the educational model that he proposes, it's amazing. If you ever have the chance to watch a video on the educational system of Finland, Sir Ken Robinson has a lot to do with it. Look for it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, how to incorporate authentic assessments. For example, let's say you have students from an art class, okay? So you're teaching English to students who belong to an art class. That's what we call English for specific purposes. You are going to teach them the same structures we work with: present simple, comparatives, present simple versus present continuous, etc. But try to include their artistic talents on it. Have them design something in English where they use their artistic talents and whatever they learned during your classes. Try your best to relate authentic assessments to real world problems. Look for it, Jenny. It's amazing. He died 9 years ago, I guess. An amazing person when it comes to the designing of educational systems. Amazing. Now, higher order thinking skills. In this case, it's basically let the creativity of your students flow. That's why, I don't know if you have noticed, in our last evaluations, I have told you, creativity for you is free. Just keep it professional, but the creativity part is free so that you are like free. I'm not under these handcuffs or constrained because I cannot do this, because I need to be extremely professional. No, you are already including cats, and I love cats, you know. You're already including kitties on your presentations. You're including your favorite artists, singers, actors, whatever, on the presentations in a funny way. And that's great because, and I mentioned this not time ago for you, if you're teaching classes and you know your student, for example, loves Korean TV series, okay, why don't you design something including that thing your student loves? And that's amazing. It's amazing. And use whatever you're teaching so that they can solve real problems. One example of this higher order thinking skills in an evaluation. Okay, so let's say that your student is watching a Korean TV series that you liked, and you watched that TV series. Your student is currently watching it. Of course, you can adapt basically any tense in English, present simple, past simple, whatever, to the context of the Korean TV series. Well, present questions about the TV series. Use the photos of the actors and the actresses of the scenes so that your student sees that, feels engaged, and it's different, that he can solve problems from the series, like real problems, but from the series. Okay, for example, Jung Woon Oh, just to mention any random Korean name, is having problems because his dad wants him to marry with the daughter of another owner of a rich company, whatever, but he's in love with this school teacher. What would you do? That is second conditional. What would you do if you were on his footsteps? And then the student can try answering that. So you're applying real problems, but with whatever you're teaching your student. That's why it's important to understand what your student wants. Now, apply learned knowledge. One of the things that I always tell my students when I teach them simple past is the best way to practice simple past, both for regular and irregular verbs, is talk about your routines, your husband's routines, your wife's routines, your son's routines in the past. So today you sit down and then you start like, okay, yesterday I woke up at 8 a.m. I took a shower, and after that I had breakfast and I started working. Once you finish, okay, my wife or my husband did this in the past. It's real life. You apply what you learn into real context. Okay. But why? Because real life does not occur with multiple choice questions and essays. Everything is not going to be yes, no questions or WH questions. Use sentences. Use sentences. You can use a blank canvas and put autori maggius on it. Yeah, yeah. But you can find the images on the internet, Jaxi, and you can use it like that. And the rubrics, we learned how to design them using the AI in the other subject, and they are needed to set the criteria so that the student understand what you are evaluating. This is important, okay? Now, some e-learning assessment tools. So there are lots of online tools. Some of them you already know. I know you have heard about Google Forms. We have used quizzes. Mentimeter, I used it a long time ago when I showed you in the classes. Edpuzzle is another one. There is a short video that I have on Socrative. Socrative is, I would say, it's a combination of Moodle and Moodle and Google Classroom, something like that. Let's watch the video. Let me stop sharing this. Let me stop sharing this and let me share. This is a short tutorial. I had to skip until this part because she was like, hello, welcome to my. It's in Spanish. I couldn't find a short one in English. I'm sorry. But anywho, this works. So this is like a short tutorial on how to create an account using Socrative. What can you use it for? Let's just watch it for a while, and then we go back to the presentation. Okay, here we go.
En la página, si no posees una cuenta, nos registramos y acá se pedirán algunos datos personales, tales como nombre, correo y una contraseña. Posteriormente, se te solicitará que ubiques tu país, el tipo de organización y el recinto donde la practicas. Una vez finalizado, se te otorgará un usuario. Puedes ir al perfil y modificar el idioma o el nombre de este. Una vez en el inicio, nos dirigimos a la barra y cliqueamos donde dice prueba. Tal como podemos observar, se pincha en añadir prueba, crear nueva, donde deberemos colocar un título. También nos da la opción de ajustar prueba a evaluación basada en resultados. Existen 3 formatos de preguntas que se pueden utilizar en la prueba. Las afirmativas, como la que se puede ver en el ejemplo: ¿cuál es la capital de Chile? A, Valparaíso; B, Talca; C, Viña; y D, Santiago, donde uno selecciona la respuesta correcta. Además, puedes ubicar una ilustración acorde a la pregunta. El otro formato de preguntas es a través de verdadero y falso, como se puede ver en el ejemplo. Y por último, se nos entrega la opción de complete la oración, en donde se pueden incluir diversas respuestas, tal como se puede apreciar en el ejemplo, el cual dice: los colores de la bandera son rojo, azul y... Una vez finalizado, subimos y le damos clic en guardar. Una vez confeccionada la prueba, se nos presentan la opción de compartir, la opción de descargar o copiar el vínculo de esto. Una vez en inicio, haz clic en prueba. Escoge una, haz clic en siguiente y luego te dará la opción de elegir método de entrega. El primero, feedback instantáneo; el segundo, abrir navegación; y el tercero, ritmo moderado por el profesor. Cabe mencionar que sí se le pueden realizar ajustes. Una vez completado, la página nos llevará directamente a resultados, donde podemos observar los nombres de los alumnos y las respuestas dadas por cada uno de ellos. Y eso es todo. Es muy práctico y sencillo. Una herramienta útil que todo docente debiera utilizar.
Yeah, what Nita says that she checked it before, but she used the premium version to edit the quizzes. I think it doesn't happen if you register, like she did in the video, if you register the name of the institution you work for, because maybe since you're using the name of the institution, it helps you not to bypass, because there's still some premium features, but it helps you at least to create some of the quizzes you saw there. So Socrative has some component, like if you see, it was basically like a gamified component, because you can have the options, you can choose, you have the different options, different images, and it has a component like similar to quizzes, where you create some games for them as well. Well, there are lots of tools for online assessment. It depends on what the institution you work for uses, or your own preferences. I know some of you hate Moodle. I do too, but that's another thing. But there are many others that you can use to assess your student online. So there is one thing that you saw in the presentation. It has to be with the feedback. Guys, your feedback matters, but it needs to be effective feedback. It's not just telling some words to your student. What are the principles of effective feedback? Well, it has to be timely, like it must be at the moment, or we will see some types of feedback in a minute, but normally the one of the best feedback you can do is at the moment. Specific, not just going around the bushes. Give your student feedback about that specific part he or she didn't do well. reflective. Allow your student to understand or try to identify the mistake he or she made. Because at least in my case, when I teach online classes, online courses, I like to help my students find where they made a mistake, identify the mistake. So when they identify the mistake, every time they click, they're like, okay, teacher, I got it. And then they get the correct answer. Constructive, help your student build their own learning. Have your student feel like he or she is part of a class. And of course, growth oriented. Your feedback, you don't need to destroy your student with your feedback. Your feedback is supposed to help your student grow. So there are, like I mentioned, there are different types of feedback and moments of a feedback. We have synchronous and asynchronous feedback. So how can we give a synchronous feedback? For example, when we are in live sessions, like this one in Zoom, I ask you a question, you answer, and at the moment I give you my feedback, that's asynchronous feedback. Asynchronous feedback will be later when you upload the activity, for example, into Moodle, if there is an online or a virtual classroom, that's asynchronous feedback because we don't need to be connected at the same time in order to give you feedback. Voice notes, Vocaroo, I don't know if you forgot about it, but Vocaroo is really cool. I used to have it with my little children when I was teaching at some schools in Uruguay, and they just recorded the voice notes in Vocaroo. They send me the link of a voice note, and that's what I would use to evaluate. Loom, we talked about it in the previous class, is another way to send voice notes. Annotated comments in Google Docs or the PDFs like I do when I send you the evaluations, and I do those comments on the PDFs to give you the feedback. And of course, the rubrics and the checklists. It's very important to, hello Becca, ya te anoto, to give each student that opportunity because they always bring something to build with the teacher. Of course, give your student the opportunity to suggest things. They can help you sometimes see the 180 degrees that you are ignoring. They can help you with that. So what happens with synchronous and asynchronous feedback? Okay, synchronous through video conference, audio calls, one-on-one meetings, team building activities, brainstorming sessions. In lots of companies do these brainstorming sessions. Like they just meet, they need to create a new product, and they're like, okay, so brainstorming session, we need new ideas to create chocolate. And they just start, whatever idea comes to their mind, they just say, they take notes, and then they start discarding it. That's amazing. And that's synchronous feedback. 1-1 performance review. This is normally not so much when, not so common when you are a teacher, but more when you are working at a company, at an office. 1-on-1 performance review, I do it with students from the academy when they finish one of the evaluations. And at the end, there is a part where they can talk, they can express how they feel. So I tell them how their performance was throughout those 4 classes. Asynchronous feedback, well, emails, message boards, dashboards, feedback like direct feedback, announcements, trainings. That's another way. Why are trainings a way of feedback? Because if you are, for example, let's say that you are the owner of an English academy, and then you notice that your teachers are having problems with students who are extremely visual. Okay, so you can hire someone, a lecturer, to give them a training, deliver a training to help them with strategies to work with these extremely visual students. It's feedback that you're giving them. So, of course, we have types of feedback. Most of them, I would just comment a little bit. Constructive feedback. You are still saying the mistakes the person did, but with the purpose that the other person understands and fix them. That is constructive feedback. Positive feedback, you only mention the good things. Negative feedback, of course, you only mention the bad things. 360-degree feedback, okay, it's not just me as a teacher telling you how well you did, but at the same time, you as a student telling me as a teacher what I did good and what should I improve with. Formative feedback to help the person understand as well. Summative feedback when you are evaluating and at the same time testing how much they know. I have cat hair on my eye. Sorry, give me a second. Yeah, I had cat hair. Anonymous feedback. This happens, for example, I only once when I was studying at university, a professor did this. We delivered our presentations, and at the end, our friends would write their observations on pieces of paper. They didn't write their names. And according to the observations, the professor was going to evaluate us. It also has to do with peer feedback because you have your partners evaluate you. But the difference between anonymous feedback and peer feedback is that with peer feedback, you know what your friends said about you. Anonymous, of course, you don't know. Now, talking about the different scenarios, let me have your eyes here. Let's take a look at these situations, okay? Scenario 1. Young learners between 7 to 9 years. And I want you to tell me which feedback strategy would you use. You can do it on the chat. You can lift your hand and use your microphone. This is the context. You're teaching a group of 8-year-olds online. You ask them to record a short video saying 5 sentences about their favorite animal. One student, Lucas, sends a video, but only says 2 sentences. And check this out. You ask for 5, he only says 2. And he's reading them from a piece of paper, and he looks very nervous. Your activity was a video saying the sentences, not reading the sentences. And you see, Lucas, only 2 sentences. He's reading them from a piece of paper, and he looks very nervous. Now, what kind of feedback would you give Lucas to help him improve without discouraging him? And remember, 7 to 9 years. Imagine that Lucas is in 3rd or 4th year of primary school. It's a little kid. So on the chat, or if you want to, you can lift your hand and use your microphone. What kind of feedback? And if it has happened to you in real life, what did you do to give feedback to a student like this? So let me read or listen to you guys. Mm-hmm. Anybody? I hope you're writing. Oh, okay, Betty wrote down. She says, It's really important that you use these tools to explain your ideas like this. The next time you can show how much it helped you and try to do it without the paper. Okay, I liked it. Anybody else? Especially if you have had this situation happening to you, I'll ask him why he is so nervous. Mm-hmm. And what else would you do, Sophie? Because look at this, your instructions were a video saying the sentences, and he was reading them. And he only did 2, not 5. Don't worry, Sophie. Let's see who else wants to chip in into the conversation. Okay, Hidai, go.
Yeah. I would ask, as it's ages 7 to 9, it's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably
Mm-hmm.
not only that he's nervous, but he also could be that he didn't prepare himself for the presentation. And maybe he delivered it late, and then I would ask, okay, did you have any issues during the week? Why you didn't deliver it on time? What's going on? Because he's a kid. And
Mm-hmm.
also when you treat with childs this age, especially until they reach 10, 11, that they're entering the adolescence, it's going to be harder for them to express themselves. So I would ask what happened that he didn't prepare himself for the assignment.
Mm-hmm. Understand the context. Sometimes these kind of kids get bullied by their friends, the friends who know more, or maybe it's a problem in the family. Okay, Sophie says, I'll ask him why. Depending on his answer, well, I'll understand, but I'll repeat the instruction and ask him why he is reading. Hmm? But he says, I would try to make him say these 2 sentences without the paper, even if he explains it in Spanglish. And also clarify to him that at that exact moment, he isn't being evaluated, so he can chill a little. That's something that I have tried with my students from the academy. When I know my students are nervous about evaluation, I just tell them, no, these are just exercises. Don't worry. This is just a review, and I'm evaluating them. So we go through the review, and the student feels more relaxed, answers, and at the end, I tell them, ha, got you. You were being evaluated. And it eliminates the anxiety. Nita says, good. And it is important to notice that was saying 5 sentences. You're doing great, but I know that you can do better. But you still need to evaluate the kid. Sophie says, understand what happened and make him some questions to see if he's just nervous or he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, most probably, I mean, just making guesses here. But in this case, maybe the kid didn't completely get the activity or didn't completely understand the situation. And that's why he only did 2. He wrote them down. He's nervous because he doesn't like being recorded. That's probably also the reason why he doesn't participate in class. Most probably, I would say this kid does not participate in class because the kids that love participating, they are not afraid of being recorded. They're not afraid. Okay, that's one case. Let me show you another case, this time talking about teenagers. Benji says, I would also try to ask him how he would feel if this wasn't an oral evaluation and instead would have been a written one, for example, to know what makes him nervous, the pronunciation, for example. Yeah, good strategy. Jenny says, I would give him a model with 5 sentences and he would change the name and adjectives and actions so that he shows you that he knows. Maybe the problem is the speaking part. Sophie says, if that's what's happening, I'll tell him that he can ask me and I'll answer with no problem. Yeah, to reduce the anxiety. Maybe ask him what were the instructions with drawings. Maybe what I do with little children, I used to give the instructions like twice. Then I would ask, some of the ones who like to participate the most to repeat the instructions. So if one of the kids could understand, then it was easier for the rest. It was easier for the rest. Now, let's take a look at another case, this time regarding teenagers. And I want you to tell me which feedback strategy would you use? Scenario 2, teenagers 13 to 15. Your class just completed a live role play activity in breakout rooms. We're talking about Zoom, okay? The task was to simulate a conversation at a restaurant. One pair of students, Anita, here you are, Anna and Marco, barely used any of the vocabulary practice during the week. They were speaking mostly in Spanish and seemed distracted. Now, how would you provide feedback to help Anna and Marco engage more with the activity next time? For those who haven't tried breakout rooms, what we do with breakout rooms is I send, if it's a big group, I split the meeting into different small meetings. And me as a teacher, I can enter a specific room for 3 to 5 minutes. So the thing is, you separated your students in groups, online format, and when you entered Anna and Marco's meeting, they barely used the vocabulary. They were speaking mostly in Spanish. So what your feedback would be? What would your feedback be to help them engage more with the activity next time? Analyze all the things I've told you, okay? And these are teenagers. You're not going to speak about me. Yeah. Tell Nita that she needs to focus. She needs to get it together. You need to get it together, girl. So let me read, or as I mentioned, you can activate your microphone. I'm so thirsty today. Because I just ate a bag of peanuts before connecting to the class. And I have some chocolate oat waiting for me here. It's delicious. I love it. Chocolate oat. Avena de chocolate. I love it. Waiting for me here. I bet you're writing. Let me check the attendance to see who is in the group. William. Hello, William. Let me write you down. Let me read the names. The ones I have in the list. I have Hidai, Sophie, Maria Daniela, Angel, Salvador, Fernando, Andrea, Suheimi, Jamie, Ricardo, Jackse, Cami, Beji, Nita, Maria Guedes, Rebecca, and William. Tell me, Jackse.
Okay, one of my feedbacks that I would use, because in these kind of situations when the teenagers mostly are speaking more Spanish, it's probably when it is kind of boring, the class, or it could be like they have a bad image or a bad picture of learning English. So I would take these to Ana and Marco as like the example for the class. So they would have to do the activity for their classmates. But it would be influenciaría. I don't know how to say it.
It would influence them.
It would influence them that if they are like talkative, or they are like more a silent person or quiet persons. So those are some
details, but I would say that. I would do that.
That you would use. Okay. Okay. And this is a really common scenario when it comes to teenagers. They are distracted during the class, or they just didn't study because they just don't care, because they are teenagers and they don't care about anything other than TikTok. And whenever they are being evaluated, they say whatever they remember. They don't take it seriously. Nita says, perhaps ask them if my voice was low and they didn't understand. Maybe. I have had, and you know the story, teenager students who just don't want classes. And I'm like, dude, I wish I was your age, and I wish my dad would be paying for particular classes for me. Becca says, I hope to see you and hear your ideas next time. You have a lot to contribute. You have the capacity to understand and contribute a lot. That's another thing. Encourage them. Because some of them at home, their parents or whoever lives with them treats them badly. And sometimes they don't know like exactly what to do or say or how to act, or they are being taught in their houses that they are not good enough. Lots of problems because teenagers. Okay, last case. This time we're talking about adults. I'm doing professional practice. Oh, wait. I'm doing professional practice in a school, and I saw that the student didn't get what the teacher said because of sound contamination that is outside. Yeah. Venezuelan context. Benji says, I will try to reach out to them 3 times. First one, ask them if they need help and explain what they need to do. Second one, ask if they need some guidance. And third time, I will let them know minutes before the evaluation ends that they will not have any opportunity to gain those points again. Exactly. You are giving them time. First, you are checking on them, which is most important. Because the first thing that you guys should always do is, okay, as a teacher, am I giving them the tools to do it? So I would check them. Then, okay, I gave them the tools. Second one, do you guys need my help? I think you need my help. If they say, no, we are okay. Okay, so it's on you. Third time, I'm so sorry, but you need to learn the hard way. It happens with teenagers. It happens with teenagers. And it would help them when they become adults. Talking about adults, third scenario, 25 to 40. You've just returned their written assignments, a formal email requesting information. The assignment was evaluated using a rubric. Carmen got a low score. After reading her feedback and seeing her score, she sends you a private message. Teacher, I really thought I had done well. What can I do to improve? How would you respond to Carmen in a way that supports her learning and motivation? This is a more common case. Let me see what you guys have to do with this or say about this. Because the message is showing you that she's not 100% sure of what her mistakes were. She's interested in improving. That's what she's asking. What can I do to improve? She's not asking for, please give me more points. No. What can I do to improve? So, how can you support her learning? How can you motivate her this time? Some of you have sent me messages saying that you have no internet, I guess. Yes, it's raining. Suheidi sent me a private message that it's raining a lot, but at least she sent the activity. Let me download the activity while you write. Mhm. Okay. Aha, you're writing. I'll read you in a minute. Let me check. Yes, I will congratulate her into being so invested, first of all. Of course, of course. Jackson says, it is something very common. My advice for you is that find out the way you learn better. For example, if you learn with videos, I can suggest some for you. Yeah. Videos I found that help a lot. When your student is visual, videos help them a lot. Fernanda says, point out why she got a low grade and maybe provide a short explanation on the topic. Of course. And now that we have the AI, I have done this with students. I help them with the prompts so that ChatGPT or whatever AI they're using helps them practice further. That's also one thing to do. If you learn better writing, you can search in Google some sheets. You can search for some sheets in Google. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So with adults, it's different. Also, we can recommend apps for practice. Yes. Yes. And like I mentioned yesterday, by the way, I had this class with a group and they had the class about the first conditional. They are in the pre-intermediate level. They had this class about the first conditional. And I noticed, the group I told you that is 4 students. Well, I noticed that they looked a little bit lost. And I told them how to create, in fact, I wrote down the prompt on the Zoom chat so that they could copy and paste it and use it to practice. Reggie says, and I will point out to her each mistake she could have made very sincerely and explain that these are the first steps to improve. I would say that if she could remember each mistake, this way she will not stumble upon the same rock and that very soon she will have more and more tools to do better. Just like now that she's been informed what went wrong with her assignment. Great, Veggie. Janie says, I will send you exercises to practice a lot and then practice them in classes. Yeah. Exercises based on her mistakes. It's the best thing. Becca says, Carmen, I know this may not have been the grade you were hoping for in this evaluation, but I want you to know that I'm here to support you and this is an opportunity to learn. Gede says, try to be nice with the student, explain the mistakes so she can do better next time. Because at least she's interested. Salvador says, well, this is in this scenario. First, I will tell her that she has done a good job during the course, even though in this activity she didn't have the best score. The thing I can suggest her is to find a way to expand her vocabulary in order to get a better grade next time, like an app, YouTube videos, English pages. Make her find some way in order to upgrade the potential she has. Yes, sometimes I find that the problem with adult students is vocabulary, that they need more words. And this way, it's great for her. Good job, Salva. Okay, guys, so key takeaways from this lesson. First, thoughtful design leads to better assessment. What do I mean by this? If you understand the way your students think, if you understand the way they receive feedback, or not the way they receive feedback, sorry, what feedback works better for them. That's what I was looking for. If you understand what kind of feedback works better for them, So think about it before you even start the class. Use your tools strategically. Whatever tools you're using. I showed you this short video about Socrates. But you have Google Forms and others, so use them strategically. What you want to do with them. Feedback, it's guidance, not judgment. With your feedback, you're trying to guide your student. You're not punishing your student. I know because I have also had teachers, bad teachers in the past, who have punished me for my mistakes instead of guided me. Teachers who have said, no, you don't work for this. How are you studying for this? Instead of, well, this exercise is wrong, but let me tell you how to improve. It's different. You're still telling your student that, hey, I'm sorry, but the exercise is wrong. But you're also supporting your student. You're guiding your student. It's important to do that. Now, guys, what is one insight you will apply in your own teaching? What will you apply in your own teaching from now on when it comes to giving feedback? I want you to tell me something you would apply in your feedbacks from now on. I give to my students a relaxing ball every time they have anxiety for speaking. They use it, a relaxing ball. Ah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool, Nita. Yeah, that's cool. I remember when I was studying to be a radio host, and they had us perform a lot of oral presentations. And we noticed that some of our friends were holding something on their hands while they were speaking. And one of the teachers, they told us that pen, that whatever you're holding in your hand is what we call an object of power. With that object that you're holding, your anxiety goes through that object. So in that case, giving them a relaxing ball, it's nice. So because they can just stay there crushing that ball, and it helps them relax a little, or at least release a little bit of that anxiety. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, such a good idea, Veggie. Yeah, such a good idea. Just a relaxing ball. Just grab the ball and let your anxiety there, so that then you can talk and tell them think it's a real life situation. Don't think about the evaluation because it's important, especially if it's your students from the English course. You are studying English because you want a better job, you're leaving the country, and of course you need English. Think it's a real life situation. Why would you be nervous in a real life situation? If the person is still nervous, that's something psychological. They use it a lot today. Ah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, just use it. Hold the ball. Just squish the ball, and it helps you a lot. I still have it, an anxiety ring, anti-anxiety ring. It's a ring that has something that you can just turn it around. So when I felt anxious in class, I would just turn the ring like this. It's around. I don't know where it is, but I still have it. It works a lot. An advice that I gave to some teenagers who were nervous for oral presentations is that touch a bracelet. Yeah, touch a bracelet. The ring is nice. The ring is nice. The anti-anxiety ring, I loved it. I loved it. Okay, guys. So, for our next class on Saturday, that's when I will send you the evaluation for this lesson. Same for the AI class. For the AI class, for those who join, we will have, it's an extremely conversational class because we will talk about the regulations and the ethics in the use of the AI. I will show you what regulations have been implemented in Latin America, around the world. We will talk about them. I will present you with 2 cases where the AI, let's say, was racist, but someone was controlling it. And then you will give me your insights about it. But you says I would encourage them to hug their mistakes and try to convey the message that these mistakes are as important as a high score, to make them focus on the learning process instead of their results. That's the thing. That's why a written test does not determine who you are. I mean, results are important, but also is the process as a whole. Exactly. That's why I mentioned a written test does not determine who you are as a professional. Sometimes it does, especially if the content you need to learn it by heart. But I remember I had friends who studied with me to be English teachers. They didn't have the best grades on the written exams, but I know nowadays they are better teachers than some of my friends who got better grades. So a written exam does not exactly determine how good you are as a professional, not as a teacher, as a professional. I also hate written exams. Sometimes they are necessary, but it's not the only way to evaluate. Okay. Sometimes as a student demand too much of ourselves, and I get it. So as much of a perfectionist as I am, I truly understand the headache it is. Yes, yes. Okay, guys, so I'll be seeing those of you who have the AI subject later. I'll be seeing you in an hour and a half. Okay. See you there, guys. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.